From the time he was a child, he was taught one thing very clearly. Be nice. Be polite. Be respectful. Be agreeable. Don't upset people. Don't be demanding. Don't make others uncomfortable. He learned early that approval came from compliance. Teachers praised him for being well-behaved. Parents rewarded him for being considerate. Adults told him, "You're such a good boy." So he internalized the lesson. Being nice equals being valued. That belief followed him into adulthood, into dating, into relationships. And that's where everything broke, because the rules changed, but no one told him. As an adult, he didn't become invisible because he lacked character. He became invisible because niceness was never designed to create attraction. It was designed to create safety. And safety alone does not create desire. This is the part that hurts the most. Nice men don't get rejected aggressively. They get ignored. No arguments. No drama. No confrontation. Just silence. Just ghosting. Just polite distance. And that silence feels confusing because he did everything right. He listened. He supported. He didn't pressure. He didn't demand. He waited his turn. And he waited. And waited. Until he realized no one was choosing him. The mainstream narrative tells him this. Women don't like nice men because they're shallow. Be nicer. Be more understanding. So he doubles down. He becomes more accommodating, more patient, more emotionally available. And the more he gives, the less he is wanted. This isn't because women hate kindness. It's because kindness without backbone reads as lack of polarity. Attraction requires contrast, tension, direction, and niceness, when rooted in approval-seeking, erases all three. The nice man learned to suppress parts of himself early. Anger was bad. Desire was selfish. Assertiveness was rude. So he learned to soften everything. His opinions, his boundaries, his presence. And soft energy doesn't invite pursuit. It invites comfort. Comfort is not attraction. Comfort is where desire goes to die. The man doesn't realize this consciously. He just feels invisible. He watches louder men get attention. Men who don't over-explain. Men who don't apologize for existing. Men who don't ask permission to take up space. And he tells himself a story. They're jerks. They're manipulative. They don't respect women. But deep down, another truth whispers, they're chosen, and he isn't. That realization creates resentment. But resentment isn't the real problem. The real problem is conditioning. The nice man was trained to believe that being liked is more important than being respected. And in attraction, respect always comes first. This is where Stoic psychology cuts deep. The Stoics believed that a man must be internally anchored, not externally approved. When your behavior is shaped by fear of disapproval, people sense it. Not intellectually, biologically. Approval-seeking creates emotional transparency. And emotional transparency without strength collapses attraction. The nice man communicates safety, but not direction. He waits instead of leads. He asks instead of states. He explains instead of decides. And none of this is wrong in isolation. But together it creates passivity. And passivity gets ignored. Not attacked. Not criticized. Ignored. This is why nice men don't finish last. They don't even enter the race. They stay on the sidelines, hoping someone notices their patience. But attraction doesn't reward patience. It responds to presence. The nice man confuses morality with magnetism. He assumes that being good automatically makes him desirable. But desire doesn't care about moral effort. It responds to emotional clarity and self-direction. The women he likes don't consciously reject him. They simply don't feel pulled. And feeling is what drives choice. This is the masculinity crisis no one wants to talk about. A generation of men raised to suppress assertiveness. then punished for lacking it. They're told to be soft, then rejected for being invisible. And the contradiction breaks them. They either turn bitter or they disappear. Neither solves the problem. Because the problem isn't niceness. It's niceness as a survival strategy. When niceness is used to avoid conflict, rejection, or disapproval, it becomes a cage. The man isn't choosing kindness. He's choosing safety. And safety never generates attraction. This doesn't mean becoming cruel. It means becoming self-directed. Stoicism doesn't ask a man to be harsh. It asks him to be firm. Firm in values, firm in boundaries, firm in presence. A man who knows who he is doesn't need approval. And a man who doesn't need approval becomes noticeable. The nice man isn't weak. He's untrained. Trained to seek validation instead of direction. And that training has consequences. But awareness is the first crack in the pattern. Because once he sees it, he can no longer pretend niceness alone will save him. This is only the beginning. Because the most painful part isn't being ignored. It's realizing why. As he grew older, the pattern repeated itself. Different women, same outcome. At first, things seemed promising. They talked. They laughed. They connected. She said he was sweet. She said he was easy to talk to. She said she felt safe with him. Those words felt like progress. Until they weren't. Because safe slowly became boring. Sweet became predictable. Easy to talk to became easy to ignore. And he never saw the moment it happened. There was no clear mistake, just a gradual fading. She stopped initiating. She took longer to reply. Plans became uncertain. And eventually she disappeared. The nice man didn't understand. He never crossed boundaries. He never pressured. He never disrespected. So why was he always the one left behind? This is where the truth becomes uncomfortable. Attraction is not built on how well you treat someone. It's built on how strongly you occupy your own position. The nice man doesn't occupy space. He waits for permission. Permission to speak. Permission to want. Permission to lead. That permission never comes. Because attraction doesn't grant permission. It responds to assertion. This is where childhood conditioning shows its damage. As a boy, he was rewarded for compliance. Don't talk back. Be the bigger person. Let it go. So he learned that restraint equals maturity. But restraint without intention becomes passivity. And passivity feels like absence. When he dates, he doesn't show desire directly. He hints. He waits. He hopes she'll notice. Hope is not attractive. Direction is. The men who get chosen aren't always better. They're clearer. Clear about what they want. Clear about what they won't tolerate. Clear about who they are. Clarity creates polarity. And polarity creates attraction. The nice man avoids conflict at all costs. He thinks conflict equals failure. So when something bothers him, he stays silent. When something feels off, he explains instead of asserting. When she pulls away, he tries harder to please. Each choice feels kind. But kindness without boundaries erases presence. Presence is what people respond to, not effort. This is why nice men often become emotional support systems instead of romantic options. They listen endlessly. They validate constantly. They show up reliably. And then they're told, "You're such a good guy, but I don't feel that way." That sentence is devastating because it confirms the worst fear. Being good isn't enough. But the real lesson is deeper. Being good without self-respect doesn't register as attractive. Stoic philosophy warned against this centuries ago. A man who lives for approval becomes a slave to it. And slavery, emotional or otherwise, dissolves dignity. People don't disrespect nice men intentionally. They subconsciously downgrade them. Because the nice man has already downgraded himself. by prioritizing being liked over being grounded, by avoiding discomfort at the expense of truth, by suppressing his edge. Edge doesn't mean aggression. It means direction, a sense of self that doesn't bend under pressure. The nice man bends too easily. He adapts to fit. He reshapes himself to maintain harmony. Harmony without tension feels flat. This is why attraction doesn't ignite. The woman doesn't feel challenged. She doesn't feel polarity. She feels emotional sameness. And sameness doesn't spark desire. This is where resentment grows. The nice man watches men who say less, care less, explain less, and get more. And the comparison eats at him. He tells himself he's morally superior. But morality doesn't generate attraction. Presence does. The masculinity crisis emerges here. Men were taught to neutralize themselves, then blamed for being neutral. They were taught that assertiveness is toxic, then rejected for lacking it. This contradiction creates confusion, and confused men either become bitter or invisible. Either path leads to fulfillment. The nice man doesn't need to become harsh. He needs to become rooted. Rooted men don't seek validation. They don't over-explain. They don't perform kindness. They choose it. Choice is the difference. When kindness is chosen freely, it has strength. When kindness is used to earn approval, it has no weight. Women feel this distinction immediately, not through logic, through emotion. The nice man's emotional energy says, "Please don't reject me." The grounded man's energy says, "I'm here, whether you choose me or not." That difference is everything. One seeks, the other offers. One waits, the other leads. And leadership doesn't require dominance. It requires self-trust. The nice man was never taught to trust himself. He was taught to defer, to smooth things over, to put others first. But attraction doesn't respond to self-erasure. It responds to self-possession. This is why ignoring nice men feels easy. Because there's nothing to push against, nothing to lose, no edge, no consequence. Ignoring a grounded man feels different because his absence is felt. The nice man is always available. So his presence isn't valued. Value comes from choice. And choice only exists when there's the possibility of walking away. The nice man never walks away. He waits. And waiting is not strength. It's fear disguised as patience. This realization is painful, but it's also freeing because it reveals the real work. Not becoming less kind, but becoming more solid. This story isn't about blaming women. It's about reclaiming agency. The nice man doesn't need to change who he is. He needs to change why he behaves the way he does. And once that shifts, everything else follows. Because respect always precedes attraction. And respect begins with self-respect. The moment the nice man finally understands what went wrong, it feels brutal. Not because he was lied to, but because he was misdirected. He realizes that niceness was never the problem. It was the reason behind it. His niceness wasn't grounded in choice. It was grounded in fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of rejection. Fear of being seen as bad. So he learned to disappear inside his own kindness. And disappearing never creates attraction. The hardest truth is this: nice men don't get ignored because they're respectful. They get ignored because they don't assert reality. They adapt to the moment instead of shaping it. They wait for cues instead of setting direction. They ask permission to exist. And permission is never given in attraction. It's taken through presence. This is where the masculine crisis reaches its core. Modern men were taught to neutralize themselves, to soften their voice, to dull their edges, to suppress desire. And then they're confused when no one desires them. Desire doesn't respond to neutrality. It responds to clarity. Clarity about wants. Clarity about boundaries. Clarity about identity. The nice man avoids clarity because clarity risks rejection. So he stays vague. He stays agreeable. He stays easy. And ease without friction feels forgettable. This is why women often say, "I don't know why, I just don't feel it." They're not lying. They feel the absence of polarity. Polarity requires difference, or a grounded center, a man who isn't trying to be chosen, a man who is already choosing himself. The Stoics understood this long ago. They believed a man must be internally sufficient, not emotionally dependent, not approval-driven. When your behavior is guided by virtue instead of validation, you move differently. You speak differently. You stand differently. And people feel it. The nice man's kindness comes with an invisible contract. If I'm good enough, you won't leave. That contract is felt, and it repels. Because attraction never grows under emotional obligation. The turning point comes when the nice man stops asking, "How can I be more likable?" and starts asking, "How can I be more rooted?" Rooted men don't negotiate their worth. They don't perform goodness. They embody it. They don't avoid conflict at all costs. They accept that friction is part of truth. They don't over-explain. They state. They don't chase. They allow. This doesn't make them cold. It makes them solid. Solid men are rare, and rarity creates value. The nice man often confuses strength with aggression, so he avoids both. But strength is neither. Strength is self-alignment. When your words match your actions, when your kindness isn't a mask, when your boundaries are clear, this is when something shifts. He stops being ignored, not because he demanded attention, but because his presence now carries weight. People sense consequence. They sense direction. They sense that his approval is not guaranteed, and that changes everything. The nice man doesn't need to become louder. He needs to become firmer. He doesn't need to dominate. He needs to decide. Decide what he wants. Decide what he tolerates. Decide when to walk away. Walking away is the most misunderstood act. It's not punishment. It's self-respect. And self-respect is attractive. The moment he learns to walk away from disrespect, emotional ambiguity, or one-sided effort, he becomes noticeable. Because now his presence matters. Absence has weight. The old nice man was always available, so availability became invisible. The new man chooses availability, and choice creates value. This is the real death of the nice guy myth. Nice men don't lose because they're kind. They lose because they confuse kindness with self-erasure. And self-erasure cannot be desired. The crisis isn't masculinity. It's identity. Men were taught how to behave, but never how to be. Once a man reconnects with his center, niceness transforms. It's no longer appeasement. It's generosity. It's no longer fear-based. It's grounded. And grounded kindness feels powerful. That's the paradox. When you stop trying to be chosen, you become choosable. When you stop proving goodness, you become respectable. And respect is the gateway to attraction. The nice man doesn't need to change his heart. He needs to reclaim his spine. And when he does, he doesn't get ignored. He gets noticed. Not by everyone, but by the right ones.